oral kind, so he was truthful. But he gave few details beyond a prepared statement.
When I was alone with Miss Lewinsky, on certain occasions in early 1996 and once in early 1997, I engaged in conduct that was wrong. These encounters did not consist of sexual intercourse. They did not constitute sexual relations as I understood that term to be defined at my January 17, 1998 deposition. But they did involve inappropriate, intimate contact.
Again and again, prosecutors tried to get him to back off that statement and admit he had sex with Ms. Lewinsky. But over and over, he found ways to sidestep the question.
I'm not going to answer that question because I believe it's a question about conduct that whatever the answer to it is, does not bear on the perjury, because oral sex performed on the deponent under this definition is not sexual relations.
Eventually, grand jurors became exasperated with the legalisms.
Mr. President, among the many remaining questions of the grand jurors is one that they would like answered directly without relation to, without regard to inferences, which is the following. Did Monica Lewinsky perform oral sex on you? They would like a direct answer to that, yes or no.
Well, that's not the first time that question's been asked. But since I believe, and I think any person, reasonable person would believe, that that is not covered in the definition of sexual relations I was given, I'm not going to answer except to refer to my statement.
At times, the president seemed remorseful it had all come out, but he denied ever asking Ms. Lewinsky to lie.
Did I want this to come out? No. Was I embarrassed about it? Yes. Did I ask her to lie about it? No.
At another point, he lashed out at Jones's lawyers, saying they had joined forces with longtime enemies to do him in.
My goal in this deposition was to be truthful, but not particularly helpful. I did not wish to do the work of the Jones lawyers. I deplored what they were doing. I deplored the innocent people they were tormenting and traumatizing. I deplored their illegal leaking. I deplored the fact that they knew, once they knew our evidence, that this was a bogus lawsuit, and that because of the funding they had from my political enemies, they were putting ahead. I deplored it, but I was determined to walk through the minefield of this deposition without violating the law, and I believe I did.
In the end, he was almost philosophical, saying he knew somehow it would all come to what it had.
But I knew that the minute there was no longer any contact, she would talk about this. She would have to. She couldn't help it. It was a part of her psyche. So I had put myself at risk, sir.
Well, for sure he did that. But for all those advance leaks, and we heard them from both Democrats and Republicans, that the president had somehow lost control of himself during this session, all of that proved false. At all times, he appeared in control, Dan.
Bob Schieffer, thanks. Still to come on CBS's special edition Evening News. The state of the prosecutor's case for impeachable offenses. New information about Monica Lewinsky and Linda Tripp in documentary evidence released today. And America's first reaction to the presidential tapes. Prosecutors reminded him of his right against self-incrimination, warned him that if he lied to or intentionally misled the grand jury, he could be prosecuted for perjury. Keep in mind they knew that the videotape was rolling. As CBS News White House correspondent Scott Pelley reports, the special prosecutor contends the president violated that oath on the videotape. Scott?
Dan, the president's grand jury testimony is the heart of Starr's case. Starr alleges that the president first committed perjury in order to beat a lawsuit and then lied to the grand jury to derail the criminal investigation. Starr claims that much of the proof is in the president's own words. The testimony begins with the same oath Mr. Clinton swore in the Paula Jones sexual harassment suit.
I do.
Impeachment allegation number 1 says that Mr. Clinton lied in the Jones case. Lied when he said he never had sex with Lewinsky. Lied when he said he couldn't remember being alone with her. Before the grand jury, Mr. Clinton contradicted his former testimony in the first 4 words of his prepared statement.
When I was alone with Miss Lewinsky on certain occasions in early 1996 and once in early 1997, I engaged in conduct that was wrong.
Mr. Clinton insisted he told the truth when he swore that he had never had sexual relations with Lewinsky because he said that term applies only to intercourse.
I'll bet the grand jurors, if they were talking about two people they know and said they have a sexual relationship, they meant they were sleeping together. They meant they were having intercourse together.
Impeachment allegation number 2 says Mr. Clinton lied to the grand jury. In her testimony before the grand jury, Lewinsky said there were 10 sexual encounters during which Mr. Clinton touched her breasts and genitals.
The question is, if Monica Lewinsky says that while you were in the Oval Office area, you touched her breasts, would she be lying?
That is not my recollection. My recollection is that I did not have sexual relations with Miss Lewinsky, and I'm staying on my former statement about that.
If she
My,
said,
my statement is that I did not have sexual relations as defined by that.
if she says that you kissed her breasts, would she be lying?
I'm going to revert to my former statement.
Okay. If Monica Lewinsky says that while you were in the Oval Office area, you touched her genitalia, would she be lying? And that calls for a yes, no, or reverting to your former statement.
I will revert to my statement on that.
Impeachment allegation 9 says Mr. Clinton tampered with the testimony of his secretary, Betty Curry. Curry testified that Mr. Clinton asked her a series of leading questions about Lewinsky, such as, "We were never alone, right?"
I do not remember how many times I talked to Betty Curry or when. I can't possibly remember that. I do remember when I first heard about this story breaking, trying to ascertain what the facts were, trying to ascertain what Betty's perception was.
Impeachment allegation 11 says Mr. Clinton obstructed justice by lying to his top aides, knowing they would testify to the grand jury.
I recall telling a number of those people that I didn't have, either I didn't have an affair with Monica Lewinsky or didn't have sex with her.
Repeatedly, Mr. Clinton dissected individual words. He was asked what his attorney, Bob Bennett, meant in the Jones deposition when Bennett told the judge, quote, "There is absolutely no sex of any kind in any manner, shape, or form."
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is.
Yes.
If is means is and never has been, that is not that's one thing. If it means there is none, that was a completely true statement.
What about being alone?
You were alone with Monica Lewinsky, weren't you?
Well, it depends on how you define alone.
Mr. Clinton also tried to convince the jury that the Jones lawsuit was politically motivated, designed, he said, to pummel him.
That was their strategy, and they did a good job of it, and they got away with it. I've been subject to quite a lot of illegal leaking, and they had a very determined, deliberate strategy because their real goal was to hurt me. When they knew they couldn't win the lawsuit, they thought, well, maybe we can pummel, and maybe they thought I'd settle. Maybe they just thought they would get some political advantage out of it.
In the end, grand jurors were frustrated. They asked why the president wouldn't give them straight answers. They asked Mr. Clinton to stay beyond the allotted 4 hours, but the president refused. Dan?
Scott Pelley, thanks. Now, you've heard from the president straight ahead new information about what Monica Lewinsky told the grand jury, and Ken Starr is investigating whether somebody tampered with the Linda Tripp tapes and raises the possibility of some perjury involved with the tapes. That and more on the White House Under Fire, coming right up here on CBS.
He's not coming right out and lying, but he's kind of skirting around, not lying, but not telling the truth, just trying to cover himself.
Carol Johnson believes the mammogram reminder card we sent her saved her life. Carlin Skipworth believes her early colon cancer screening saved her life. If it's hard for you to believe that our long-standing commitment to preventive care and early detection actually makes a difference, we have proof, living proof. We're Aetna U.S. Healthcare, raising the quality of healthcare in America.
Chevy Tahoe with a Vortec engine. The most powerful SUV anywhere.
For the 14 million women who worry about light to moderate bladder control, now there's new Double Protection Compose Panty and Pad system. The Compose Panty and Pad fit together for double protection. There's a super absorbent disposable pad, but the real difference is the separate washable panty. It gives you double protection with a quilted panel that won't let wetness through. So why worry? Get double protection with Double Protection Compose. Protection that goes beyond the pad.
What a pain. Can't get through the day without getting a headache? Big ones, little ones, they're always upsetting. Maybe we've got the right medicine for you, plus your latest weather.
That's tomorrow.
On This Morning.
Along with the videotape of President Clinton, the House Judiciary Committee today released the complete text of Monica Lewinsky's testimony to the Starr grand jury. There's a lot of new information in it. CBS News correspondent Rita Braver reports what we learned from those documents. Complete text of Monica Lewinsky's testimony to the Starr grand jury. There's a lot of new information in it. CBS News correspondent Rita Braver reports what we learned from those documents.
In her first appearance, the prosecutors ran the show. They took Lewinsky through the full story of her relationship with the president and even got her to disclose that she was peeved last January when she saw these romantic pictures of the Clintons. I was jealous, and it just seemed sort of an aspect of their relationship he had never really revealed to me. But the day Lewinsky came back here, after they heard from the president, the grand jurors really took over, asking what any of us might want to know. When Lewinsky testified, I fell in love, a grand juror asked. At one point, the questions about sexual activities got so explicit, Lewinsky asked, "Can I hide under the table?" A key part of the testimony was left out of the famous Starr report. What happened when prosecutors nabbed Lewinsky after her final meeting with Linda Tripp? She testified that for hours they kept her from calling her lawyer or her mother. Prosecutor Jackie Bennett telling her, "You're 24, you're smart, you're old enough, you don't need to call your mommy." And contrary to Starr's public statements, Lewinsky claims, "They told me that I'd have to place calls."
The accurate TL can help.
Destination on the left.
It's gotta be a place that's still open.
The grand jury